Killer Snowman Jack Frost movies.
Oh, God.
I got trumped by the guy who wrote Jack Frost.
That hurts right there. That's painful. I know that if I was going to write having death stalk somebody, it would be like a stalker girlfriend. I think that would be a really cool death right there.
Well, a lot of it is, you gotta remember that, of course, there is nothing new under the sun. And the biggest thing to do, Mike Resnick always said, hit them where they ain't. And I mean, when I write for, especially for themed anthologies, that's something I really try to do. I try to think, okay, everybody's going to have this idea. But I can do this idea, but I'll just do it in like such an unexpected way. Everything I sold to Marion Zimmer Bradley was on the list of stuff she does not buy. And she bought it anyway. Because I mean, one of my stories that she bought was called Dracula's Lawyer, But that's not the typical story she got that had Dracula in it. So she bought it, even though she never buys stories with other people's characters in it.
And Lee Martindale was putting an anthology together recently, and dealing with ladies of the Red District, basically. And I had a great idea for a Jack the Ripper thing, and I asked her if it was okay, and she sent me a letter back saying, if you love me at all, please do not send me another Jack the Ripper story. I am sick of Jack the Ripper stories. I'm like, okay, never mind.
Well,
timing's everything.
Timing is everything.
It's partly that. It's partly because all the Jack the Ripper stories she saw were probably based on, they didn't do anything to twist it. They didn't do anything to stand it on its head. And that's what you got to look for when you try to come up with a story idea, is like, what's weird, what's unusual, and with that idea. And, we did Vampires in Suburbia for Fangs for the Memories, and, everyone writes the Soccer Mom Vampire Hunter. I wrote the Soccer Mom Vampire, and she was the protagonist, and so that made that a completely different thing from what there was nothing else like it in the book. So that was cool.
Well, we're starting to get short on time, so let's take a moment to see if the audience has any further questions for us.
Do you want to steer us back on track?
Just a comment. It's just that the moral of the story, I think, here is write faster.
That's always a good thing to do as a writer, is to write faster before everybody else steals your stuff.
Yes.
Or at least it's your idea first, and it goes the bestseller, and then you're just derivative after that.
Yeah.
Well, panelists, do you have any final comments?
Nope, I think we had one more there.
Now,
One more?
Now, what do you recommend, or what would be one or several good methods if you find that a story starts to get bogged?
Back up to where it wasn't bogged and figure out what you did wrong.
Okay.
And take a look at it. I mean, also, just try what if. What if I did this? What if I did this? What if this happened? What if that happened? And don't go with the very first thing that comes in your mind. Just write a whole bunch of things down that could happen, and then think about which one brings up the biggest conflict and the most potential for carrying you on in the story to where you're trying to get to.
And have somebody who knows you well read it, and then ask you questions about it. Because when they interpret it, don't ask them for how to change it. Have them ask you questions about it. Like, for instance, you write something out and it makes sense to you. It might not make sense to them. And the question they ask may suddenly unlock something in your head and you go, aha, that's where the problem is. And as far as final notes, if you can find it, I don't know if it's in print anymore. Harlan Ellison himself may still have, because he buys all of his copies back. So you may be able to write Harlan Ellison's company and find this out. There's a book called Harlan's World, which it is just a book of world building, with a bunch of other authors all getting together and building this world. It's not a story. It's just world building.
Lee Killow has a book with Yard Dog Press called Checking on Culture, which is about how to world build a culture, and it's a checklist of things that she uses when she builds her worlds, and it is awesome. It's a really short book, but it has it kind of condensed down in there. And like I said, also Patricia Reedy's world building questions is another great place for getting the world together. That those kind of things are awesome resources.
Let's take a moment and have our panelists pimp themselves. Where can people find your stuff?
My Yard Dog Press books are in the dealer's room right now, and also yarddogpress.com. And then Which Way to the Mall and Fangs for the Memories, you can get it on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. They're also available in ebook format. Four Redheads of the Apocalypse and Apocalypse Now are also on ebook format now at Bane's Webscriptions. But if you do that, if you want to buy them on ebook format, go to my website, juliasmandala.com, and click on the link, because you will never find it. It is an unsearchable website. So
I buy all my stuff from Bane's website.
yeah, well, yeah, Bane books you can find.
None of my fiction is in print.
Damn
So
it!
nobody can go anywhere. Because if I put it up, then there goes first rights at some point.
Yes.
I have, unfortunately, work is eating my head at this point, so it hasn't been updated much. But I do have a critics live journal. That's Coyote Reviews at LiveJournal. That basically just talks about movies or television shows in a light of somebody who actually enjoys them, rather than somebody who's paid to tear them apart. And some recommendations and things like that. But as far as my fiction goes, unfortunately, I am not in print at the moment. I am a relatively new author.
As am I. I have one short story coming out in anthology the 1st of next month. The anthology is called Lesbian Cops, and it'll be available on Amazon. I also have a website, lynnmixon, lynnmixon.com, because I write my erotica under a pseudonym, a little switch from my real name of Terry Mixon. You can go to my website, read my new blog that I've started, and you can also find these podcasts on deadrobotssociety.com. Well, everyone, I'd like to take a moment to thank our panelists for being here with us, and audience, please give them a round of applause because they've been great.
Thank you, audience. Hi, I'm Julia S. Mandela. I write science fiction and fantasy, mostly fantasy. I have 2 novels out right now. One is House of Doors, which is about a 15-year-old boy who goes to live with his aunt at her Kansas farmhouse. He finds out that the upstairs of her house has all these corridors and doors to alien worlds, and every night's an invasion. So it's not quite as boring as he expected it to be living in the middle of Kansas. Then I have another novel that I collaborated with called The Four Redheads Apocalypse Now. It's a sequel to what we call a chapbook, which is a short, a novella length, about 20,000 words story. The original was called The Four Redheads of the Apocalypse. And in these stories, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse have died, and their socialite wives have gotten stuck with their jobs, and they are bad at them. And they spend most of their time trying to figure out how they're going to get out from under their jobs. And in the Apocalypse Now, they have the stunning realization that if they bring about the apocalypse, then they're done. So by this time, they've been doing so bad at their jobs, nobody's paying any attention to them. And so they get really well into the apocalypse before anyone even notices that it's happening. And so, that's been a lot of fun. We're working on a 3rd book, Redheads in Love, and in this one they find another layer of fine print with an electron microscope in their contract that got them stuck with these jobs. And they find out that if they can get a guy to marry them who is also acceptable to God and Satan, that man can become the horseman, and they're done. And so they're all out husband hunting in that one. And so that one's got a lot of fun in it. I've been in 2 of Esther Friesner's anthologies. One is called Which Way to the Mall, which is funny stories about witches in suburbia. And the other one is called, I did not name this, Fangs for the Memories. And it's my story in that one. That one's all about vampires in suburbia. And mine in that one is called Soccer Mom Smackdown. And that's where my character, the main character, who is a soccer mom vampire, who got turned into a vampire after an unfortunate late-night shopping event at Kohl's. She gets into a fight with a soccer mom vampire hunter. So that is